Hello and welcome to our third session in the SELDAY 2024 Summit. I'm Jim Vetter. I'm Executive Director of the Social Emotional Learning Alliance for the United States. And we are so happy to be here with you today, along with our partners, Urban Assembly and 6 Seconds, our global partner, which is particularly appropriate for this session. And if we pull up the slide, before we head in, just like to say that we are right now in this session about today, the theme of this year, 2024 is SEL Day, is today's students, tomorrow's leaders. And we'd like to say a thank you to our SEL Day sponsors. Please go to selday.org exhibit to learn more about these sponsors. Our advocate level sponsor, Antioch University, our supporter level sponsors, Second Step, Pure Edge, and Harmony Academy at National University, and our promoters, Responsive Classroom Fly 5, Ruler Program, and Satchel Pulse. And particularly would like to give a special thank you to Antioch University as our advocate level sponsor. Antioch University's mission is to provide learner-centered education to empower students with the knowledge and skills to lead meaningful lives and to advance social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. And they have some really cutting edge programs around SEL with a focus around SEL and equity. So you can learn more about them by going to that exhibit page as well. And this session is Global Insights, how SEL works around the world. And over to our panel.
Okay, hi, hello, welcome to SEL Day Summit 2024. My name is Ayaka Mawarida. I'm originally from Japan, and I live in the US right now, working for 6 Seconds and the world's largest emotional intelligence community as a pop-up festival coordinator. I think we will talk about pop-up festival later, but this is free, playful, insightful SEL resources with a huge volunteer community. And it's such a pleasure to be here today as a moderator for the first time in my life. Nice to meet you all. So I will bring a few guests today. Bassem, Kripa, Antonella. Hi. Hi, nice to meet you all. Thank you for being here today. So please introduce yourself and check in by sharing what part of nature symbolizes your feelings today as we start this discussion. Let's start with Kripa.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and listen to this important discussion. My name is Kripa Kannan, and I'm a UNICEF National Youth Council member and global advocate for education, healthcare equity, SEL, and climate justice. For me, the part of nature that symbolizes my feelings today as we start is a lake, kind of starting with that state of like calmness and clarity. There are a lot of qualities that are truly essential for SEL specifically, and just like the lake surface can kind of be disturbed with our emotions and stirred by life's events. With time and understanding, it kind of returns to that state of calmness through different social emotional learning practices. So yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, next go to Bassem.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bassem Nasir. I'm an education specialist working at New York headquarters, focusing on secondary education and skills, covering a global perspective. I am currently visiting my family in Palestine, where I'm originally from. And the part in nature that resonates with me, it's spring right now, and spring flowers are blooming, and that symbolizes hope for me, especially being in Palestine amongst all the carnage and the destruction and the death that I am seeing happening over there. So the green, the greenery, and the flowers that are emerging are of a source of hope.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing with us. Okay, let's go on to Antonella.
Hi, I'm Antonella. I'm a psychologist and mentor coordinator for the International Pop-Up Festival in partnership with UNICEF World Children's Day. I'm Italian Peruvian. I'm based in Lima, Peru, and second of nature will be, I think, the ocean. That will be for me because I live near it, so it feels like home, and I think that is how I feel about EQ and SEL.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think I want to join the check-in part. I would say tides or waves or ripples of the water. Like it start with like just a little small movement but spreads out like through the world. That's what's happening today on SEL Day, I feel. And I am so happy to be part of this movement today. Okay, thank you so much. So before we move on to the discussion, I'll invite audiences to join the chat. So please feel free to leave any comments on there. I see several now, but yeah, please feel free to join and leave comments or questions or answer your answers to the questions too.
In the SEL Day 2024 Summit.
Do we hear anything right now?
Director of the Social Emotional Learning Alliance for the United States.
I think we're fine. Okay, let's move on. So first, Kripa, I have a question. What trends emerging in the last couple of years in driving the need for more focus SEL in a part of the world where you work?
Yeah, I have a couple of points on this one, but I think the first one would just be the increased awareness of mental health recently. There's been a lot of different awareness regarding mental health issues among children and adolescents, especially with the stress and isolation that came from the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that has kind of highlighted the importance of addressing emotional well-being. And SEL programs kind of seem a good way to provide students with different mechanisms and resilience against those challenges. Another thing that I've been seeing just like being on social media is just that rise of technology and how social media has transformed the way that young people are now communicating. And while these platforms do provide the opportunity for connection, they also have a lot of challenges and obstacles, like cyberbullying. It could promote social isolation and exposure to inappropriate content. So SEL in this way could also teach empathy and respect while also emphasizing the importance of responsible decision making. And then I think the last thing I wanted to hit on was like education policy and funding. In some regions of the world, there has been a policy shift towards holistic education models that encompass not just the academic learning, but also social and emotional development. And this has also been accompanied by increased funding and resources for SEL programs that have kind of made it a more known thing, and which allows us to recognize its impact on like overall student success and well-being.
Thank you. Thank you. What about you, Antonella?
For example, in this part of the world, EQ and SEL are new concepts for educators, especially. So most students don't have access to SEL hours, for example. So in a pop-up, I want to share like a really brief story about this. In a pop-up that I hosted here for a remote school that it's from a very difficult area. So what I saw there during a pop-up that I hosted was, and I thought that was a meaningful experience to share with you today, was like the story of a boy around 10 years old that was experiencing SEL for the first time. So I saw SEL happening in real time. For him, for example, was the first time he was naming his emotions. He only knew happy, sad, and scared. So, for example, like getting to see during the pop-up how he started learning about other basic emotions and learning about more complex ones, I think was like giving him a key to understand himself better and also his world. And so I think like the trend is to give more of that to youth in an equal way, to give them access to SEL resources, especially to the ones that don't have any support from government or their actual schools. So I think that's the trend, to help more youth in need of SEL.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I just saw this in the chat. Carol, thank you for sharing. Social media has been an extremely negative influence on our high school students. I really see that. And like, so among those tweens and teens, kids, it's really fatal to be part of the community. But to be part of a community, maybe SEL is really helping tool, powerful tool for them to connect with yourself first and then others. Like, it's so, yeah, it's really critical issue, I think. Thank you, Carol. Basa, some people think of SEL as class that happens weekly in school, classroom thing. What's more integrated example for SEL that you're seeing or expecting in your work?
Thank you so much for those perspectives. But maybe I'd like to also go back maybe to the first question and add another couple of drivers that I think are really important for us to pick up on. There's across low and middle income countries, there is a high unemployment and level of needs which are not in education, employment, or training amongst all youth all over the world. So, for example, 2/3 of youth are not on track to attain the full range of skills needed to thrive in school, work, and life. And 1/4 of the world's youth between 15 and 24 were not in education, employment, or training in 2022, with women being twice as likely to be a need. The COVID crisis has made this thing worse, and the deficit is severe in the poorest countries, with up to 94% in sub-Saharan Africa and 90% in South Asia. So social emotional learning, or soft skills, the variation of social emotional learning that's related to employment, is seen as a key skill or competency that these young people need on their pathways to livelihood, either through employment or entrepreneurship. So this is really something that is driving programming on SEL or soft skills. Another really important one that is missed is poor learning outcomes. So the world is grappling with a learning crisis. Globally, nearly 2/3 of children are suffering from learning poverty, meaning they cannot read and understand a simple story by age 10. And in places like sub-Saharan Africa, this rate is nearly 9 out of every 10 children. Foundational learning, which we are currently defining as learning basic reading, numeracy, and social emotional skills, gives children the essential building blocks to comprehend information, empathize with others, communicate effectively, and solve problems. And importantly, these skills are the foundation for developing other complex skills, such as critical thinking, digital, entrepreneurial, vocational skills. So these are huge drivers within education systems. And I have the privilege of being able to cover this agenda globally, so I have the perspective of what is driving SEL. And of course, Kripa mentioned the mental health component, and we see social emotional learning within classrooms and within education environments as essential in terms of promotion of good mental health and relationships with your fellow peers, as well as with your parents and community members. So these are in terms of some of the drivers. In terms of some of the models of SEL, and there are many really interesting, innovative models that are happening all over the world. I'll tell you one in particular that I am proud of, and it's happening here actually where I am right now in Palestine. This is a model that was developed between UNICEF, the Ministry of Education, as well as a local university called Beirut State University. It's called the XLOBS model. And the idea was basically to integrate social and emotional learning and social emotional learning activities within every subject area. And the way it happened basically is educational instructors and instructional designers took on different curriculum with learning outcomes, and they created lesson plans that actually both achieved the intended outcome of the curriculum, but also added activities that supported some sort of social emotional learning content. So, for example, you have in the math lesson, where the student is learning about, or the science lesson where the student is learning about electricity. They've developed a lesson plan for the teacher that they give them, in which the students are asked to go and look at an electricity bill, analyze this electricity bill. So they're learning about consumption. So they're learning the scientific part, but then they work with other team members to talk about how much is the consumption. So there's teamwork happening there. They think about, so for example, things like how can they lower the electricity bill? So it's a little bit of critical thinking, problem solving in that. And then they think about presenting that solution to the rest of the class. So you're reaching the academic knowledge of that subject, as well as you're developing some of those social emotional skills. And the nice thing is realizing that a lot of teachers struggle in developing these kind of lessons plans. They actually mapped out the whole curriculum for, I think, grades 1 to 4 for all the subject matters, and developed lesson plans, scripted lesson plans for every teacher. So the idea is that a teacher actually has this scripted lesson plan. They do it. Maybe the first time that they do it, it's a little bit difficult. It's maybe a little bit automatic. It's a little bit, robotic. But the more you do it, the more the teacher also has that ability to engage their student. Because one thing we know is that a teacher must be also capable of supervising or delivering social emotional learning instruction. And so this way you kind of deal with these issues simultaneously and concurrently together. So this is a really interesting model, as opposed to some of the models that are standalone SEL classes within the classroom. And we find this, as challenging as it is, a very interesting model. Many different models like this exist around the world, because actually it maintains the spirit of SEL across the school and across the whole environment of learning.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, first, like you shared about so low income countries' educational state. So if I shed the light in that content and outside of the classroom, so Pop-Up Festival is like free resources, SEL resources, and sometimes like it has related to science, related to maybe writing literacy, those intersection of SEL and academic skill happens in some Pop-Up Festival activities. And those are some volunteers from Africa sign up for Pop-Up Festival doing those skills, those activities with African kids at refugee camp or orphanage facilities, all those things we heard of it from them. So I really would love, so also I wanna talk about this. So some teachers and I working with in this Pop-Up Festival community told me that SEL, EQ, social emotional learning can combine with any curriculum, any topic. We can merge this topic, this sense. Like we can focus on emotion, or we can shed a light to emotion so that we can connect to that topic more closely. And that's what I heard from the teacher, and I really resonate with that. Thank you. Kripa, what about you? I want to ask you about some idea about outside of school SEL a little more.
Yeah, I think with the advocacy work I've done with UNICEF, I've seen the importance of understanding those complex social issues and being able to emphasize with different affected communities and communicating with others in order to raise awareness and drive change. And that has really strengthened my social awareness and developed a lot of soft skills and empathy and compassion, and just improved my ability to take part in advocacy and civic engagement in a really informed but responsible way as well. And this was touched on a little bit before, but I think a good way to integrate it is just project-based learning by including that SEL focus, and starting this from a really young age. That way you're training them from elementary and middle school, rather than kind of starting it up as a new idea in college or high school, and just something where students could take part in long-term projects that require different critical learning and creativity skills. And they could also incorporate academic content, but make sure to integrate those SEL competencies as well. And an example of this could be you see an issue at your school, and in response to that, you and a couple of friends start like some community garden or a recycling program. And that kind of already trains your mind to think from that problem solving and collaborative mindset as well.
Thank you. So we got a question for Bassem. Question from Ramsha on YouTube. So could you share what program that is again? I would love to look into.
Sure. I don't know I don't have it's very hard for me to look at the links. It's called the X-Labs. It's in Palestine. So I don't know, Ayaka, if we will be sharing some resources or notes after this. I'd be more than happy to share a link about this program or connect them with the people who are overseeing this program. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk with Josh and make it happen. Thank you. Okay.
Sure.
So here I would like to ask all of you a question about like answering with more or less. And then if you think it's more, I would love you to do like show more with your hands or like face or anything that you can show in the screen. Whatever is okay. Less is less. Whatever is fine. So the question is, will SEL become more or less important in next 3 years? I will say 3, 2, 1. Then everybody does. Okay, 3, 2, 1. More. Everybody more. Antonella, is that more? Okay, yeah. So everybody with agree with that. This is gonna be more important. Thank you in the chat. Yes, more. I believe that too. More. Everybody says more. I agree with that. The reason may be different with all of us, I think. Can you give us some couple of the reasons why you think it's more important? Please write in the chat, audience, and I want to start with Antonella.
I think there's more interest from nonprofits, from teachers, from youth advocates, and also like focusing on well-being, that to deliver the message that well-being matters, and SEL is the perfect pathway to well-being, like present and future. So I think more people want more of that message, that SEL and EQ are important.
Thank you. What about you, Kripa?
Yeah, I think with a couple of different aspects, like first, just there's a lot of changing workplace dynamics and requirements, and with the job market that's continuing to evolve, and there's such a bigger emphasis on soft skills that SEL can provide, like emotional intelligence and adaptability. They're increasingly recognized for success in the workplace. And then I think I mentioned this before, but just the continuing impact from COVID, the emphasis on SEL can be a means to support students' well-beings, and academic recovery is also likely to grow within students, as well as creating a long-lasting effect for their mental health and their learning strategies. And regarding their mental health, it's becoming an increasing concern, especially with the pandemic and with the increase of social media involvement. And SEL programs are now really vital to kind of develop that resilience, manage different stresses that come with all of those things, and provide young people especially strategies to cope with those mental health challenges, because it can be an especially tough time to go through them alone, and especially if you don't have experience in them prior, it can be hard to overcome those challenges.
Yeah, COVID hit really huge. Like COVID left really huge impact on this SEL world for sure. And like the uncertainty, like everybody didn't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. That was really full of anxiety, and every single person didn't know the answer. So that was the challenging time for all the world, for sure. And here I got lots of comments. So let me read first. So it'll be more important as the science of SEL makes its ways to educators. Josh, sadly, I think SEL is becoming more important because the pain of isolation and distress are becoming bigger. So this world is dividing the world like really extreme ways, and like that makes people more lonely or like isolated, distressed. And this, well, because I learned social justice in my master's, and in this patriarchy or capitalism society always makes people put above and below, mostly below the pyramid, and that makes people to feel like where am I to belong? Where do I belong to? That question is always happening in every moment, and belonging is really powerful saying, I think, because now the world saying the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and everything goes to belonging. Diversity, equity, inclusion are tools for belonging, and belonging is emotion, and that's EQ, SEL. So we are trying to make a space for everyone to feel belong, but not one space, but maybe there are tons of spaces that people can belong to. That's how I feel, though. But thank you. And increase awareness about what it is, and recognition of its benefits to both adults and children and community at large. Yes. There are more and more, but I want to ask you, Basa, too. Why
Yeah,
do you think it's more important?
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked to some of the, I mean, these questions relate to some of the drivers we talked about. Maybe I'll add another one. The climate crisis is going to be making, it already is disrupting education and learning systems and lives. And it is doing it disproportionately to a larger degree to marginalized populations, marginalized children and young people. SEL is a set of skills and competencies that will help mitigate some of those disruptive effects that we will see on learning. So, for example, we've just published, that I can share also, a report called Portable Green Skills for an equitable transition for young people. And actually, many of the skills to transition justly into the new green economy have components within them that are SEL related. So I agree fully, and it's not an either or. I think the mental health aspect is really important, but there are actually very also practical elements related to both learning and livelihoods in health that and not just mental health, also physical health that will make SEL more important. And just to notice that we use the term SEL within our sort of communities, mostly in education, but we see these terms such as soft skills, we see transversal skills, transferable skills, 21st century skills, and all these terms are relatively related and overlap to a large extent. So other sectors and other fields are seeing those. So we've been seeing this drive up in programming for a while, and I think we are getting better at another important point. We're getting better at measuring social emotional learning. It's still at the beginning of the road, but that, I think, the more we are able to measure it effectively and more accurately, the more we're able to then improve the delivery, and as a science and a discipline can really grow with a strong, rigorous evidence base.
Thank you. So here is a comment from Livy. When teachers understand the science of we feel, therefore we learn, it makes a huge difference in understanding of the science behind SEL. I agree with that. How do you think about the adults learning SEL, Kripa? Because as young youth leader in social justice, SEL world, how do you expect adults in social emotional learning?
Yeah, I think it's becoming increasingly crucial for adults to learn SEL and how to kind of put that learning and teach students about it, especially since we spend so much time in school and around our households and in different workplace environments as we are growing up. It's important for youth to have this exposure early on so that they're able to see it from experience and be able to see how adults are using SEL in the real world and applying it to real life situations. Especially even if we are learning SEL in school, it's important to implement that into actual projects and real world situations. And I think a great way to do that is to see how adults are implementing this in a day-to-day way. So starting now and teaching adults how to effectively like social emotionally learn and respond to different situations is increasingly crucial for SEL to be adopted by the youth in the next generation as well.
Thank you. Like, I have 3 kids, and I sometimes struggle with my SEL EQ skill to practice at home. But like, if I were a kid, if teachers teaching me SEL and showing like a little not SEL moment, EQ moment, then I would say like, where is consistency? Like I maybe could be a little skeptical about like, how can I trust you? How can I follow you? So like I maybe last year or a couple years ago on this SEL day, I was in this live streaming as a guest, and I said, how we are is the text of SEL. So like really, I really want to do something for adults. That's why I founded an organization to learn EQ and equity in Japan. But that's for that, like for if we can increase more SEL full, EQ full adults, then like that world makes it really easily to get better. That's how I hope though. So here's one question from, sorry if I can't pronounce it well, but Top Chan. The question, I'm thinking about how to use AI tools to teach SEL skills to our students. Do you have any experience? So I would say, what your thoughts first, and then do you have any experience? And maybe that would be the questions. I want to ask you, Antonella first.
I think it could be integrated, like in the sense of giving them dynamic tools to get access to information about SEL, for them to learn in a fun way and in a natural way for them, for new generations, because like technology is like second nature for even younger generations. So I think it could be blend, but in SEL, I think it's more important to have that person-to-person contact and interaction to learn SEL through the experience of doing it with others too. So of course, yes, I think it could be integrated as a tool, but I think we also should focus on maintaining, preserve the human part of the learning aspect too.
Thank you. Basta, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole webinar on its own. The use of technology and AI to teach SEL. I can also share a couple of links later on. I think whether we like it or not, that's also a separate question. But the reality is there's a role for technology in promoting SEL, and SEL also needs to be looked at as a set of competencies, and technology can help some SEL skills more than it can other set of skills. So this is one way we can think about it, and AI is just another way of it's a more sort of advanced set of technologies. So I think AI has a definite role, and the reason why I say this is many times, as we have already said, to develop SEL, you need good teachers or good role models to demonstrate that. In many situations, in many places all over the world, there's a huge shortage of teachers, or there's huge classrooms in which, or the teachers are simply not equipped. So I think there's a role for technology or AI in general to support the development of SEL. Let me give you an example. If you're trying to develop good communication skills, or you can imagine a simulated approach in which you learn how to communicate, you learn cues, you learn what to say, not to say, how to answer, how to do this. There are many tools that allow digital collaboration and teamwork that will help you also build some of these teamwork. So the role for AI and for technologies is obviously there. It's a role that also exists on a spectrum, from being supportive to being fully sort of immersive. One can also imagine these virtual worlds being, but of course, as with all these things, there are huge concerns and safeguards that must be looked at. But the reality is, there is a role. There's a tool that we are experimenting with at UNICEF called Fundu. I will share. You can even Google it. It's called Fundu. That is already showing some promise, and young people are engaging in it. But the reality also is that the level of research and longitudinal research of impact hasn't really been there in terms of technology and SEL to really give us a full picture. Another way that technology can help with social emotional learning is the issue of measurement of social emotional learning, in terms of like being able to figure out whether a person, what a person can pick up on, because the concepts of social emotional learning are so complicated. If you build some digital models, they will become very data heavy, and so all these things one can imagine can utilize big data models to really be able to point you out to things that you need to do. So for example, I'm talking right now, maybe in some sense, there is an AI model can pick up on some things that I'm doing with my hands, some things that I'm doing with my eyes, the tone of my voice, to give me almost some clues in terms of some things that I'm doing effectively or not. So just some glimpses into some of those ways in which we think about SEL and technology.
Thank you. How do you feel, Kripa, if you just heard from some idea of like using AI into this world, into this SEL context? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so fun fact, I'm actually a computer science major, so I spend a lot of time trying to find the intersection between utilizing technology and doing advocacy with it and trying to do like social justice. So looking into a lot of that, there's a lot of pros and cons of utilizing technology. Some pros could be like personalized SEL learning. They could tailor it to a specific student or adult's individual needs and make it more efficient to their learning styles and be able to understand their like current emotions and analyze those interactions. And there can also be like emotion recognition software that can help students and adults become more aware of their own emotions and their interactions with others. And by using that type of software, they can analyze like facial expressions and body languages just to help students better understand and manage their feelings. And I think another big thing with technology and AI is the ability for educators to see those data-driven insights. So see how those interactions with AI tools actually promote social and emotional learning development, and maybe that could identify specific areas where students need additional support or intervention and be able to tailor their like teaching strategies to kind of meet those needs that were identified there. But kind of like Bassem mentioned, with everything that's positive with technology, there's also negative aspects of it. So being able to kind of mitigate those negative effects and restrict whatever platforms that are being utilized for SEL and similar learnings, that it is safe for youth and adults to use without making that social isolation and other harmful emotions, making that worse and dramatizing those. Just being sure that those negative effects are mitigated, because AI does have the possibility to help in a lot of ways, but it could also take away that really fast.
Yeah, like I was thinking, like as you said, like identifying emotions, that part, and then like use it as a tool to help us to understanding our emotions. That's really huge part, I think. Like, I don't want AI to specifically identify my emotion. You are feeling sad. Like that's really creepy for me. Like I want to search myself. I would look into myself by myself. So like, yeah, like we want to use the tool. Like we have control over the AI for sure in this SEO, I feel, because it's really interesting what I would look like. Well, thank you. There is a comment that I really want to cover. So I'm a master in education student, and a common theme in my classes right now is how under-equipped individual and entering the workforce are for 21st century skills, and a lot it's skills related to SEO.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bassem, do you have any comments for this?
Yeah, I mean, this is, to be honest, a huge driver of the programmings that we do, and actually a huge driver for why ministries of education, as you know, ministries of education are highly, and governments are highly political, responding to the needs of their populations. And like I said, and I think the first point that I made was globally there's a high unemployment rate. And if you look at sort of the reasons for unemployment, there's a couple of like big reasons. There are demand side reasons, which are there are no jobs, and then but there are supply side reasons, which are the people that are leaving education systems, are entering the labor workforce, don't have the skills that are needed for employment or to start up their own business. To solve that aspect of that challenge, you need SEL, or the soft skills version of naming of those skills. And so we are seeing actually this being done in a few ways. Many secondary education systems are integrating social emotional learning within their curriculum, within all subject matters. We are seeing social emotional learning specific courses that are integrated within vocational schools to help young people to transition to the labor force effectively. We are seeing employer-based apprenticeships and internships that are now moving from just technical and vocational-based apprenticeships, but more to integrating social emotional learning. So, for example, we have a great collaboration in Bangladesh for an informal apprenticeship program in which we helped actually, which is mostly young women entering into informal apprenticeships. And in the old days, it would just be teaching them the job. But now it's about the job, it's about the social emotional learning. And then what that does is it does a couple of things. It helps them be able to stay on the job for more, work with their peers, have better communications with their managers. It helps them with their families. It helps them advocate for themselves. So, for example, one of the results of this program in Bangladesh on the informal apprenticeships is that amongst the female participants, it delayed early marriage for these young girls, because part of the social emotional learning that they learned was communication, being their own advocates, being assertive. And so they were able to actually advocate for their own rights to not be married so early. So you can see how these programs work in a very integrated, holistic way across different sectors and for different outcomes. But definitely, when we hear from employers, and this is a theme that I see across the world, the employers feel very, very capable of teaching young people the technical side of a job. But what they want are people who are able to come in and work with others, who are able to think a little bit critically, who are able to show up on time, all these things that come with SEL.
Thank you so much. So it's surprisingly, we have only 5 more minutes, so let's wrap up today. We covered a lot theme and a lot of questions today, and thank you for sharing your precious insights, and thank you audience for joining us today in the chat. It was really valuable. So last question, what just one point you hope people will take action from today and next week? Starting with Antonella.
I would love for youth to tell about SEL to parents, to their friends, to spark the journey on that, but also to take SEL beyond the classroom to give more impact. For example, I will say this really briefly, like in pop-up, we have seen a vast of a context of SEL spaces outside school. So, for example, in a pop-up done in a dojo in South Korea, or a group of scouts doing a pop-up teaching each other SEL in a park in Mexico. So or at home with their parents or their friends. So I think that I would love to see more like in school, but also to give the impact beyond that, to take to other parts of their lives too.
Thank you. Okay, let's go with Bassem.
Yeah, thank you so much for having such a wonderful panel. I think with the knowledge that you have gained today, wherever you see a weakness in your system, or actually an entry point for where you can promote social emotional learning, there's many ways where you can promote social emotional learning. We've discussed them. Please start to have these conversations within what you can affect. So I hope you can do that.
Thank you. Okay, Kripa.
Yeah, kind of echoing what they both already mentioned, kind of starting to spread that awareness about social emotional learning and starting to take action, whether that be just listening to others without judgment and focusing on really fully understanding their perspective, asking those open-ended questions to encourage those deeper conversations, and encourage that reflection and sharing that comes with it. And then I think the best way to promote SEL is to share your own experiences with it. So sharing how it affected you and your experiences in order to create that mutual understanding, and then also engage in like perspective taking. So try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, especially in situations where you might not initially agree, and that might help promote SEL and awareness in a lot of different contexts, whether that be the workplace, in a school environment, or even within your household.
Yeah, I really totally resonate with you, Kripa. And like, thank you, Livy. I just saw it. Yeah, SEL needs to become part of teachers' training. I agree with that. And because I've been studying social justice, I really think like everyone, like cops, judges, like social workers, everyone should learn SEL, because like it's all about belonging. Like if people feel belonging, then they don't feel isolated. So belonging is matter, I feel, and SEL can bring those feelings in the classroom or the society or the community if we all think about it. So thank you so much for joining us today, and next session will start anytime soon. Enjoy your SEL day, and happy SEL day. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
And thank you very much to our panel. Our next session is coming up right at the top of the hour. That session is going to be on how social media can bring students into support for SEL. Students and educators join us in mastering SEL promotion using perspectives from the younger generation itself, that we'll learn from a 19-year-old expert in understanding the digital world and how to use highly effective social media methods as a tool to mobilize student action for SEL. Then we're going to hear the firsthand perspective from SEL experienced high school students on how to inspire middle and high schoolers to desire SEL and act to obtain it, including by spreading the message in school, at home, and to others via social media. The link for that next session is in the chat. Please join us and please be with us for all of the SEL Day Summit and post your comments and thoughts on all of your social media with the SEL Day hashtag. See you in the next session.